Today, I'll show you how to create this beer mug pop-up card. Hi guys, this is Omar from Awesome SVGs, and today I'm bringing you another pop-up card. You know, I love pop-up cards. This is a card I made for Father's Day, and it's an idea I got from Pinterest, and I decided to create my own version of the card. It is a very simple card really to make, but the steps are a little bit tricky, so let's get to it. Okay, so first we are going to bring our file into Design Space. So click on upload your file, and once you see it here, click on it until you see a green outline, and that means it's selected, and then click on Insert Images. It might take a while for the file to load depending on how fast your computer is. It's a pretty big file. And the first thing we're going to do is change a couple of lines from the basic cut operation to score and draw operation. So ungroup the whole thing, click anywhere on the file, or just click on the top layer right here on your layers panel and click on ungroup. And that will ungroup the whole thing. You will see a couple of different groups for the card base, the inner card base, your beer nozzle, and also for the mechanism of the card and the print then cut sentiment that we will put in front of the card. So let's start with this one. Let me put it right here. I'm sorry. Let me undo that. There you go. The sentiment is in two different languages, is in Spanish and also in English, so you will have to select which one of these you want. These are vector format images, so there's no need for you to deal with pixels or try to clean up the image. It's an SVG image that you just have to select which sentiment you want. And once you have done that, let me select the English one. You can click on the title for that group. That will select the sentiment that you selected, the lines for the image, and also the background. This is a white outline around those images. And once you have selected all the elements that will print then cut, click on flatten, and that will turn that SVG image into a print then cut image. So there's your first element. Let's do the second one right here. This is the inner card base. It's in yellow, and we need to change that center line, that's horizontal center line, into a score line. So click on the top layer, which is the score line. You will see that it's fuchsia right here in your operations menu. So change that from basic cut to score, and that will turn that line into a score line. And then we need to attach that score line to the cut lines around. So for that, click on the title for that element, or click and drag a rectangle around both elements. Once you have both selected, click on attach, and that will put that score line right on top of that cut line. Let me hide that. Let's continue with the card base, the light blue that you see right here, and we will do the same thing. Click on the top layer and change the operation from basic cut to score. You will see that it's also a fuchsia layer right here. So select score, and that will turn those solid lines into dashes. And next we need to attach those score lines to the cut lines underneath. So click on the title of the group, or just click and drag a rectangle that includes both elements. You don't need to select the whole thing, just need to click and drag a rectangle that includes both elements. Okay, So once you have both selected, click on attach, and those score lines will be attached to your cut lines. Finally, we are going to change some things in the mechanism. This is the white element that you see up here on the top left. And we need to change the top layer, which is the fusion layer. Remember, from basic cut to score. There you go. And then we're going to change the second layer from basic cut to pen, because you need to draw these lines. Okay. This layer is in yellow to make it different, so you can tell the difference between both. The fuchsia is score, the yellow is draw. Okay, so click on pen, and I like to change the color so you can see if you did it right or not. And we're going to use a gemstone blue here. Okay, I will also use a gemstone blue color pen when I will use a gemstone pen on my machine, so the lines are not really visible once we colored the image in. So next we need to attach those score lines and the drawing lines to the cut lines underneath. And let's do that one more time. Click and drag a rectangle that includes all three elements: the score, the drawing, and the basic cut layer. Or click on the title for that group and click on attach. That way the score lines, the drawing lines, and the cut lines are in a single element. To make sure you did everything right, click on make it, and your project will be sorted into mats. Here's the print then cut file, the front sentiment that will be colored in and put in front of the card. I use a laser printer for this. It's better if you're going to use Copic markers or watercolors, because they won't smudge or bleed. Then we have the mechanism of the card that can be cut from a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Here are the score lines and also the drawing lines on the same mat. Then we have the nozzle, and this will be cut from a mirror-like cardstock. Here is the nozzle outlines, or the details of the nozzle that will be cut from a Nina cardstock. This is 80-pound cardstock. Nina delivers great detail when doing these intricate cuts. Here is the gold embellishments that we will cut from an 80-pound cardstock. And here is the yellow inner card base that will be cut also from Nina cardstock. This is pearlescent cardstock from the Creative Collection. And the card base will be cut from an American Crafts cardstock. This one can also be cut from a single 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Next, click on Continue, hook your machine, and cut your pieces and start assembling. Okay, so first start coloring your barrel. This is the beer mug. I used a very simple 4-shade technique using yellows and yellow reds. The colors you will see on the upper left corner of your screen, and I just blended a little bit the colors, not too much. Following the lines, the good thing is that the lines are drawn in a very light blue color, and it's easy to see, and you can also follow the lines very well. I used 2 shades of gray for the foam. And finally, I outlined the image using a white gel pen. This is a Sakura Jelly Roll 08 white gel pen. And for the foam, I used a Wink of Stella glitter pen. This is the clear version. I also colored in the foam, the separate foam piece that you get with the file, and also used a clear glitter Wink of Stella brush. For the front sentiment, I used a B91 and a B45 markers for the beer mug in front, just to match the color of the card base. I also used the yellow and yellow-red markers for the crown and the banner. I then colored in the handle of the beer mug just on the outline to make it visible. Okay, so to start assembling the card, first fold the gluing tab of the mug. That's the colored piece, the piece that we just colored in. And it is very important that you fold that tab back and forth a couple of times using a bone folder, so you kind of work that crease. You don't need that crease to be very sharp. Also fold that element in half, and again fold it back and forth until you get kind of like a soft edge right there. Finally, you will grab your bone folder, or you can use a pen also to kind of curl it, and so you get that cylinder on that piece. Finally, you will put that mug handle in place. Just push it in and put some glue on those gluing tabs. And after you put glue in there, just fold it until the handle is glued to the front of that element. Next, we will start assembling the mechanism of the card. So take the larger piece of the mechanism, fold it in half, and then crease it like so. It is very important that you work all those folds and they are parallel to each other. Use a bone folder to make those creases very sharp and kind of work it back and forth until you get everything working properly. There are small cuts on the cardstock that will guide you through the folding, but it's very important that you make sure the folds are parallel to each other. That will help the card work better. Once everything is folded, you will start gluing that mechanism. So take the main piece and add glue to the sides of the center mechanism and glue it in place. Next, start assembling the center piece. This is the center reinforcement. Fold the tabs, the gluing tabs down, and then add the matted panel behind. I cut this in a strong or heavy cardstock. This is gold cardstock. It's, I believe, 90-pound cardstock. The links to all the products are linked on the video description below. Now, I'm not very good at aligning things, so I always use a small piece of low tuck tape. This is purple tape, to just use it as a hinge, so you can align things properly. Now add glue to the front element and then fold the matted panel on top. Now here you see the mirror cardstock that I used for the nozzle and the nozzle embellishment or the nozzle outlines. This is a very intricate cut. It was cut from a Nina cardstock. I used little dabs of glue to glue it in place. Anyway, it oozed a little bit outside of the that gray cardstock, so I removed it using the tip of my tweezers. Now you will see 4 points on the front element that will guide you through, with the gluing of that nozzle in place. So just glue that nozzle in, and there you go. Now there's a small piece that represents the beer coming out of the nozzle. So just colored it in using the same colors that you used for the beer mug. And just glue it in the center of that front piece or that center piece. Finally, glue the foam, the separate foam piece. Add some glue and glue it in place. Once everything is glued, feed that center element through that slot on the mechanism. Just make sure it's pointing, the tabs are pointing towards the front. So make sure you put the that center piece right in the center, and that it's aligned with the slots for the gluing tabs. Now feed those gluing tabs through the slots on the center mechanism. Make sure that they are all the way in, and then add small dabs of glue and push them down to glue them in place. Now the center element is glued to the card mechanism. Now we will close the mechanism. So just glue the bottom tabs to the bottom of that mechanism, to the bottom platform, like so. Do the same on the other side. Just make sure everything is parallel. Add some glue to that gluing tab and glue the bottom platform in place. And finally, you have one more tab to connect everything. So add glue to that gluing tab, to that center gluing tab, and close the bottom platform. There you go. Now press it and make sure everything stays flat. You can use your bone folder to help you with the flattening of that piece. And now we're going to glue the gluing tab of the mug of that barrel. So fold it in half and glue it shut. And once it's dry, you will glue the mechanism inside that mug. Work it with your fingers until you kind of form a cylinder. Fold the gluing tabs or the holding tabs of that cylinder up so you can see what you're doing better. And then you will glue that mechanism inside that cylinder. Just make sure to align that column of the mechanism with the gluing tab on the side. You will see a couple of notches on the cardstock that will guide you with the gluing of that top part of the center element. So add little dots of glue to the side column on both sides. You have to do this on both sides. Kind of push it, feed it through, align it with the center, and once you're done, press it. Turn it around and make sure everything is aligned, and give it a good press so everything stays in place. Now make sure everything is working properly. Give the mechanism a couple of pushes so you see if everything is working all right. There you go. And now we're going to prepare the inner card base. I used a pearlescent cardstock, a Nina pearlescent cardstock, and I used this gingham rubber stamp from Simon Says Stamp with some StazOn copper ink, and I stamped that inner card base. Just make sure you're using the right side. Anyway, this pearlescent cardstock is double-sided, so any side you pick is okay. I love the shimmer of that copper ink on that pearlescent cardstock. It's very beautiful. Now make sure you clean your stamp, and we will continue assembling our card. Now take that inner card base, fold it in half following the scoring line. Use your bone folder to crease it very well. And then we will feed the center gluing tabs of that mechanism through the slots on the spine of that card base. Make sure they are all the way in. Push them until they are all the way in, and fold one to one side and the other one to the other side. I like to use glue for this, but also I put a small piece of masking tape to secure them in place. Turn it around, put a little dab of glue, glue that gluing tab, and put a piece of masking tape. Next, we are going to glue the platform. You can put glue on the base of that platform, but you can also just feed the gluing tab through the hole on the side, through the side slot. If you put glue on the base of that platform, it will be a lot more sturdy. I didn't do it this time, but it should have, and it's a good idea if you do too. Now put a little bit of glue to the gluing tab, on the gluing tab, and then add a little piece of masking tape. Do the same with the other side. You can put glue on the base of that platform if you want to. Add a little bit of glue to that gluing tab, and then put a piece of cardstock. And there you go. Now that inner card base is working properly, and this cylinder pops up when you open up the card. And now we will assemble the front element, the front sentiment. I used again a piece of low tuck tape. This is purple tape as a hand to make sure everything is aligned correctly. Just make sure you glue that low tuck tape to the bottom element also, so it doesn't move. So open up the front matted piece, add some glue, fold it over, and put a stamping block on top. And there you go. Perfectly centered matted panels. Finally, glue the front sentiment on top, and put that stamping block on top. Now start assembling the card base. Fold each of the panels in half, and also fold the top tabs on that panel. Use a bone folder to make those creases very sharp, and then fold the front of the card base. There are 3 folding lines at the bottom, and you will make a valley fold on the first and third line, and you will make a mountain fold with the center line, with the center scoring line. So it's a valley fold on the first and third, and it's a mountain fold on the center one. You can rescore the line if you want to, using a bone folder and a ruler to make that easier. I don't like to make cuts for the scoring lines because they are visible. That's why I use my scoring tool. I used the scoring wheel for this. Once you have everything folded, you will have a valley fold, and then a mountain fold, and then another valley fold. After that second valley fold, you will have your gluing tab, so add glue to that gluing tab and put the back of the card base in place. Make sure everything is parallel. And give it a good press. Make sure you keep that mountain fold in the center. Use your bone folder, and there you go. The front and back of your card base are glued together. Now this is the front of the card, the one that doesn't have a gluing element, and we will glue the front element in place. Now make sure to add glue only to the bottom half of that card base, leaving the top of that element without any glue. So do small markings, transfer them to the back, and add glue just to the bottom of that element. Glue it in place, and there you go. You can use your bone folder just to make sure everything adheres correctly. Make sure the top of that element is not glued to the card base. And this is the way the card base works. Finally, we're going to glue that inner card base to the outer card base. So add some double-sided tape and make sure the inner card base is glued not exactly on that line, but a little bit past that line towards the center. If you glue it right in the scoring line or that fold, the card will not work properly. So try to glue it a little bit past that fold. Next, add some double-sided tape to the back of that inner card base and fold the card shut. And finally, we will glue the top gluing tabs. This will connect the front of the card base to the back of the card base. And that is pretty much it. You have to work the card and close it and open it a couple of times just to make sure it works properly. Remember that all the products I use are linked in the video description below, and you can download this project for free at my blog at www.awesomesvgs.com. And if you like this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, hit that bell button next to the subscribe button to be notified every time a new video is uploaded. Here are a couple more videos you could be interested in. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.